Today we are looking at 4 wheat pennies that every coin collector wants in their collection. 1950, 1954, 1956, and 1958. Now you might be thinking, these look like pretty common dates. But wait, out of these 4 coins, there is one that stands completely apart from the rest. 1958D, the Denver Mint strike that carries a very special place in wheat penny history. While the other 3 coins have no mint mark, this 1958 D is the only one in today's lineup with a mint mark, and that small letter D makes a huge difference in value and rarity. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you will find out exactly why the last coin in our lineup is the most important one of all. Let's get into it. Alright, first coin on our list today, the 1950 wheat penny. And before anyone says this coin is too common, just wait, because the numbers I am about to share are going to change your mind completely. Let's go back to 1950 real quick. World War II had just ended a few years back. America was rebuilding, the economy was growing, and every single day millions of Americans were using this little copper coin without thinking twice about it. Nobody was saving them. Nobody thought they would ever be worth anything beyond 1 cent. That was their biggest mistake. The wheat penny design had already been running since 1909, over 40 years by this point. It was created to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, and it was the very first U.S. coin to ever feature a real person's face. Designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner. The detail on Lincoln's portrait, the strong jawline, the hair, the wheat stalks on the reverse, all of it was ahead of its time. Now in 1950, 3 mints were producing this coin. Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D, and San Francisco with an S. Philadelphia struck around 272 million pennies. Denver struck 334 million. Sounds like too many to be valuable, right? Wrong. Because most of those coins got destroyed, worn out, melted, or lost over the decades. The ones that survived in sharp, uncirculated condition are genuinely rare today. A high-grade Philadelphia 1950 penny in MS-65 sells for $400. The Denver version in the same grade brings $800. And the San Francisco 1950 S, with its lower mintage of only 118 million, regularly sells for $1,000 and above in top condition. But the crown jewel of 1950 is the proof penny. Only 51,386 proof examples were ever made, specially struck for collectors with mirror-like surfaces and frosted portraits. A top-grade 1950 proof penny has sold for over $3,000 at major auctions. $3,000 for a penny. And here is what I want you to remember. When you look at a 1950 wheat penny, do not just look at the date. Check the wheat stalks on the back. Sharp lines mean high grade. Check Lincoln's cheek. If it is round and detailed, that coin has never been heavily used. And look for the color. A full red uncirculated example is worth far more than a brown one. Because that one small detail, sharp red uncirculated, can be the difference between a $2 coin and a $1,000 coin. This is a coin that was made for everyday spending. And today it is being chased by serious collectors willing to pay serious money. Do not sleep on the 1950 wheat penny. Now let's jump ahead to 1954. And this one has a rarity factor that most people completely overlook. Stay with me. And this is where things start getting really interesting. Because 1954 sits in a very unique position in wheat penny history, and most people have absolutely no idea why. Let's set the scene. The year is 1954. America is deep into the Cold War era. Television is becoming a household staple. Elvis Presley is about to change music forever. And the U.S. Mint is quietly striking pennies that would one day become some of the most talked-about coins in the entire Lincoln series. By 1954, the wheat penny design was already 45 years old. Collectors and mint officials both knew the design was approaching its final years. There was already discussion happening behind the scenes about retiring the wheat reverse and introducing something new. That conversation added a quiet significance to every penny being struck during this period. These were the final chapters of an iconic American coin. Now, just like 1950, 3 mints were producing the 1954 wheat penny. Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with a D, and San Francisco with an S. But here is where 1954 separates itself from 1950 in a very big way. San Francisco in 1954 struck only 96 million pennies. Compare that to the 118 million San Francisco produced in 1950, and you can already see the 1954 S is working with a smaller base number. Fewer coins made means fewer survivors today, and fewer survivors means higher prices for the ones that made it through in great shape. Philadelphia struck around 71 million pennies in 1954, which is actually quite low for a Philadelphia issue of this era, and Denver came in at approximately 251 million. Now the Philadelphia 1954, with its relatively low mintage of 71 million, is genuinely underrated. In MS-65 condition, a 1954 Philadelphia penny sells for $300 to $600. In MS-66, that number jumps to $1,000 and above, and the finest certified examples have crossed $2,000 at major auctions. The 1954 D from Denver in MS-65 brings around $400 to $700. Clean, sharp, full luster. Collectors pay a strong premium for a well-preserved Denver example from this year. But again, just like 1950, the 1954 S from San Francisco is the one that commands the most attention. In MS-64, you are already looking at $300 to $500. Push that to MS-65 and prices move toward $800 to $1,200. And a gem MS-66 1954 S has sold for over $2,500 when the color and luster are right. And then there are the 1954 proof pennies, struck exclusively at Philadelphia for collectors. Only 233,300 proof examples were produced. Now that sounds like more than 1950, and it is, but a certified PR-67 Cameo 1954 proof penny is still bringing $500 to $1,500 depending on the eye appeal and surface quality. So what should you look for on a 1954 wheat penny? Same rules apply as always. Sharp wheat stalks on the reverse. Full round detail on Lincoln's cheek and jawline. And the color, full red coins carry the highest value. A 1954 penny that has gone brown or spotted has lost a significant amount of its premium. But a coin that has held its original red copper color after 70 years, that is something collectors get genuinely excited about. Also check for errors. The 1954 series has documented repunched mint mark varieties, particularly on the S mint issues, where the mint mark was stamped more than once at a slightly different angle. These varieties are collectible and can add serious value on top of an already valuable coin. Here is the bottom line on 1954. This coin is sitting in the final stretch of the wheat penny era. Every coin struck in 1954 was made just 4 years before the series came to an end forever. That historical significance, combined with the low Philadelphia mintage and the scarce San Francisco production, makes 1954 a year that serious collectors always prioritize. A coin that cost 1 cent in 1954, now selling for hundreds and in the finest grades well over $2,000. That is not just a coin. That is a piece of American history with a very real price tag. Now we are at the third coin in our lineup, the 1956 wheat penny. And I want you to pay close attention here, because 1956 is the coin that most casual collectors completely overlook, and that is exactly what makes it such a hidden gem for the people who actually know what they are looking at. Let's talk about the moment in history first. The year is 1956. America is at the height of the post-war boom. Highways are being built across the country. The space race is heating up. Rock and roll is taking over every radio station. And deep inside the U.S. Mint, workers are striking pennies that are now just 2 years away from the end of the entire wheat penny series. Think about that for a second. 2 years away from the end. By 1956, people inside the mint already knew the wheat reverse design was living on borrowed time. The decision to replace it was coming. And yet millions of Americans were still spending these coins every single day without a second thought. That combination, end of an era approaching, coins being spent carelessly, very few people saving them in top condition, is exactly the recipe that creates valuable survivors decades later. Now let's get into the production numbers for 1956. Philadelphia struck approximately 421 million pennies with no mint mark. Denver came in at around 1.1 billion with the D mint mark. Now before you say 1 billion sounds like too many to be valuable, stop right there. Because we have had this conversation already. Mintage numbers tell only half the story. Surviving high-grade examples tell the real story. And here is the interesting thing about 1956. Because production was so high, Because these coins flooded everyday circulation, people treated them as completely throwaway. They were spent fast, worn down fast, and saved almost never. Finding a 1956 wheat penny today in genuine, uncirculated condition with full original luster is harder than most people expect. A 1956 Philadelphia penny in MS-65 condition sells for $200 to $400. In MS-66, that number moves toward $800 to $1,500. And the finest MS-67 examples, which are extremely rare for this date, have sold for over $3,000 at top-tier auctions. $3,000 for a coin from 1956, a coin that was made in the billions. The 1956 D from Denver follows a similar story. In MS-65, you are looking at $150 to $350. In MS-66, prices climb to $600 to $1,200. And a certified MS-67 1956 D is genuinely one of the rarest condition rarities in the entire late wheat penny series, with prices that have exceeded $2,500 when one surfaces at auction. Now, 1956 also had proof pennies struck at Philadelphia. And this is where things get really exciting for collectors. The U.S. Mint produced 669,384 proof pennies in 1956, which sounds like a large number. But within that group, the ultra-high-grade examples with deep cameo contrast, frosted Lincoln portrait against a mirror background, are extremely difficult to find. A 1956 proof penny in PR68 deep cameo has sold for over $4,000. $4,000. That is the ceiling on this coin, and it is a real number from real auctions. What should you look for on a 1956 wheat penny specifically? Because the mintage was so high on this date, the competition among surviving high-grade coins is fierce. The coins that stand out are the ones with full original red color, sharp wheat stalk detail, and absolutely no signs of cleaning or polishing. A clean 1956 penny loses most of its collector value immediately. Original skin, meaning untouched natural surfaces, is everything on this coin. Also worth mentioning, the 1956 series has some interesting doubled die and repunched date varieties that have been documented by specialists. These are not common finds, but they exist, and they carry strong premiums when discovered. Here is what I want you to take away from 1956. This coin was made in massive numbers. It was everywhere. And because it was everywhere, nobody cared. Nobody saved it. Nobody protected it. And now, 70 years later, the ones that somehow survived in perfect condition are being bought and sold for thousands of dollars by collectors who understand exactly what they have. High mintage does not mean low value. Condition is everything. And the 1956 wheat penny, in the right grade, is one of the most rewarding finds in the entire series. Do not underestimate it. And here we are, the final coin. The one I told you about right at the very beginning of this video, the 1958 D wheat penny. And I want you to feel the weight of this moment, because this is not just another coin on a list. This is the coin that represents the end of an era, the closing chapter of a design that ran for 50 years across 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the Korean War, and the entire post-war boom. 5 decades of American history, all ending right here with this single coin. Let me take you to 1958 for a moment. The year is 1958. America is changing fast. NASA has just been founded. The first American satellite has just launched into space. Elvis is at the peak of his fame. And inside the U.S. Mint, a quiet but historic decision has already been made. The wheat penny design is being retired. After 1958, the wheat stalks on the reverse are gone forever. Starting in 1959, Lincoln's Memorial in Washington, D.C. would take their place. So every single penny being struck in 1958, every worker at every mint knew they were making history. These were the last ones, the final run of an American icon. And now here is the part that makes the 1958 D so special compared to every other coin we have talked about today. You noticed from the very beginning of this video that 1950, 1954, and 1956 had no mint mark in our lineup today. But 1958D, that small letter D below the date, that is not just a mint mark. That is a signature. That is Denver saying, we were here at the end. We struck the final chapter. Now let's talk numbers. The Denver Mint produced approximately 800 million 1958 D pennies. and Philadelphia struck around 253 million with no mint mark. But here is the reality. 1958 was the last year. People were spending these coins right up until December 31st of that year. Nobody knew at the time that they should be saving them. Nobody was setting aside rolls of uncirculated examples for the future. The coins that survived in true mint state condition are genuinely scarce. And the finest examples, the ones with full original red color, sharp details, and no trace of wear, are the ones collectors are paying serious money for right now. A 1958 D in MS-65 condition sells for $300 to $600. In MS-66, that number climbs to $1,000 to $1,800. And the finest certified MS-67 examples of the 1958 D have sold for over $4,000 at major auctions. But wait, because there is one more thing about 1958 that makes it truly legendary in the coin collecting world. The 1958 double die obverse. This is one of the most famous error coins in the entire Lincoln Cent series. On this variety, Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the lettering on the obverse all show a dramatic doubling visible even to the naked eye. It is bold, it is unmistakable, and it is extraordinarily rare. Only a very small number of these error coins are known to exist. And when one surfaces, the entire coin collecting community pays attention. A certified 1958 double die penny has sold at auction for over $100,000. $100,000. For a penny. That is not a typo. That is a real auction result. And it is the reason why every single 1958 wheat penny you come across deserves a very careful second look under magnification. Now what should you specifically look for on the 1958 D? Check that D mint mark carefully. Is it sharp and clean, or does it look like it was stamped twice at a slightly different angle? Repunched mint mark varieties on the 1958 D carry strong collector premiums. Check Lincoln's portrait for any doubling in the letters or facial features. And always check the color. A full red 1958 D with original luster is the version that commands the highest prices in every grade. Also pay attention to the wheat stalks on the reverse. On a high-grade 1958 D, the individual lines within each stalk should be clean, sharp, and fully separated. That level of detail tells you this coin never saw heavy circulation. And that detail is worth hundreds of dollars in premium over a worn example. Here is the final thought I want to leave you with. In 1958, this coin was made to be spent. 1-cent pocket change. Something you dropped into a vending machine or left on a counter without thinking twice. Nobody imagined that 65 years later people would be paying thousands, and in rare cases hundreds of thousands, of dollars to own one. But that is exactly what happened. The 1958 D wheat penny is the last coin of a 50-year legacy. It carries history in its copper. It carries rarity in its condition. And it carries serious value for anyone lucky enough to find a sharp, uncirculated example today. We started this video with 1950, a coin from the beginning of the decade. And we are ending with 1958 D, the coin that closed the book on one of the greatest designs in American numismatic history. If you have any of these 4 coins sitting somewhere at home, take them out. Look at them carefully. Get them graded. Because what you might be holding is not just a penny. It is a piece of history. And history, when it is preserved, is priceless. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because we have got a lot more coins coming that are going to surprise you just as much as these did. Drop a comment below and let me know. Do you have any of these 4 wheat pennies in your collection? I want to know. See you in the next one.